Hello everyone and welcome back to New Horizons. So over the last two episodes we've built our farming and agricultural area in the Void Dimension. We employed our friend Breeks and used him to level Stickreed to 21310, and the Stickreed we used as parent crops to pass the stats on to many other useful varieties of crop species. Since the last episode I've spent quite a bit of time with Breeks getting more seeds to fill out the farms, and also making sure the crops could grow in the environment we provide, by giving endstone for the yellow stone lily, red granite for the red stone lily, and black granite for the black stone lily. And we now have space for all of the essential crops that we need at this point in the game, which are all being automatically farmed by the crop manager powered by a creeper egg. And 5 of the crops are now being processed into their most useful byproducts passively. Oh yeah, I'm feeling really great about where we are in the game right now. If you guys saw the end of the episode here with the green cable, it has been fixed. I will go over that later. I realised though at some point last episode I said, so yeah, that is now 6 items, 6 crops being fully automatically processed. And the ones we currently have processed is sugar beets, glowflower, salty root, endstone dust, or yellow stone lily, sticky resin, which is stickreed, and that's it. We're missing the 6th. We are missing biotite, and I completely forgot about it. Even though I made that voiceover last episode, when we were crafting this area, when we were building out all these machines, I completely forgot about biotite. But you know what? That is actually okay, because I think I would have moved it anyway. So over here at ore processing, which you'll be glad to know is now completely finished with the backlog. All of these chests here, which were full, I think there are 3, 6, 9, 30, over 33 chests worth of stuff to get processed is now done. And it is now in this AE subnet. Look at this. We are rich. Look at all of these resources. This is glorious. Absolutely glorious. I love it. We're short on diamonds though. That's not good. We're short on a few things, but yeah. I mean, like coal. Who wants some coal? 110,000? Yeah, it's paying off for sure. Actually getting some infrastructure in this base feels awesome, and we're going to continue that theme today. So along with the biotite, which we have to add here, we are also going to integrate some older systems from the older section of the base. Things like polytetrafluoroethylene, things like the electrolyzers and centrifuges. All of this I still use on a daily basis. The blast furnaces at some point, not something we're going to get to today, but these all have to be moved. Perhaps a furnace. The only furnace we have in the game right now is the steam oven. I cannot believe we're in IV with one steam oven, but you know. Most of the metals go through the blast furnace, in fairness anyway. Yeah, there's also like the plastics, polyethylene and PVC. These will also have to get their own spaces. And then also, probably the one we start with today is silicone rubber. This right here is the only silicone rubber we have currently in storage, and we are going to need a lot of silicone rubber. Yes, it is true that sticky resin, which is now in the farms, it can give us regular rubber, which has a very similar use case to silicone rubber. We do need both though. And yeah, check this out. This is looking awesome. I love it. Breeks actually just got finished with this salty root, which we can add to the last spaces over here. And I want to make sure there is one thing with salty root which we have to ensure. As you can see on the tooltip here, there is extra requirement information. It prefers a dry environment and, of course, is inedible. We don't want to eat the stuff, we want to process it into chlorine. Because it prefers a dry environment and we picked jungle here, that jungle is beneficial for pretty much every other crop, but their salty root is a special case, it needs a dry environment. So for all of these other crop managers, we give them water, over here with the reservoir, and that ensures that we hydrate the crop, giving them extra benefit to their water stat. The salt root here cannot survive in a damp environment, so we have to make sure we remove the reservoir from this crop manager. That does also affect the stickreed here, and a couple of these other miscellaneous seeds that we have planted in this area. But stickreed is one of the fastest things to grow, so I have a feeling that isn't going to really affect things too much. We should still have more than ample supplies of stickreed and sticky resin coming in. And because of the extra requirement, we want to absolutely make sure there's no resistance stat on this one. This one here is 1, so I'm not going to use that. 21310 is perfect stats. This is 20280, this is still okay. I wonder if we have some in the insurance chest here. This is copies of every single seed because, as you know, it's not so easy to get seeds. Even if you have Breeks, which I still highly... This guy has helped us out so much. So much over the last few episodes. Anyways, I think we've had just about enough of that void dimension. I've spent so many hours in there. It's time to start building out some infrastructure, starting with the biotite. And that is going to be handled over here at ore processing for reasons we'll get into a little later on. Alright, so I was going to set up this machine off camera, but this represents a fundamental change in how we handle fluids from now on. So I crafted another centrifuge, the multi-block. We will run this at EV. Same as the rest of the machines in the room, we already have a power supply here, as well as an Applied Energistics connection, which is on the subnet of ore processing. But yeah, we pretty much all know how these centrifuges work by now, right? We have maintenance hatches, machine controller, centrifuge casings. We have the muffler hatch. Muffler hatch we'll put in the middle here. And then all we need is a space for the item input, output, and fluid output. So I've went ahead and crafted ME output buses, we've used these before, and also stocking input buses. I made 7, and these are pretty pricey investments. It takes an interface each, plus acceleration cards, which take platinum. Honestly though, I think it's going to be well worth it. So the output bus is going to go on the black line, which is the input and output to ore processing. The black line is connected to this main network here with the ME controller, and this handles all of the insertion into ore processing, and is basically where all the main filtering takes place. But yeah, all of the items should end up back in the main filters of ore processing. Then we have the stocking input buses, which is going to pull from our main Applied Energistics system, i.e. not this green covered cable. We are going to change this. So all of this has to be removed. And in fact, we don't need this green cable here anymore. Wait, hold on a second. Where does this go? This goes to the second last interface here, green, for Centrifuge 2, which is what we just assembled. But yeah, this has not got any filters in it currently. The centrifuges, we have 2 centrifuges here, right? As you might have noticed. This one here handles all of the pure and impure dusts. So if we take an iron ore example here, the centrifuge handles impure and pure, and will centrifuge it down into iron dust and a byproduct in most cases. This one is perfectly fine. We're going to keep this as is. And I think that cable there is lime and not green. It's on a separate filter here. It's over this side. Yeah, this one is fine. This one here though, we want to take from our main Applied Energistics system. So I did kind of, I took a little shortcut when I was setting up ore processing. We are going to have to make a new P2P channel, and we're going to call this one ore processing. So this gives us ME channels on the main network, and this follows this line all the way down the wiring tunnel. Goes through this wiring tunnel, which is also how we supply power, and this basically converts into red cable. When we follow this all the way down, I did take a little shortcut earlier, and I connected this up to the terminal P2P, just for us to be able to get an easy way to get channel. I don't think we had enough space on the controller up there when I made this whole system. So we're going to switch this over to the ore processing frequency. And if you didn't know, you can also share the output of a P2P tunnel. So we can also hook up ore processing P2P output here. And that will give us the rest of the 30 channels that we're not using. We're using 2 down there. So we can also bind this to ore processing. And this allows us to both power and supply channels to the stocking input bus. That's 4, we need 5 here. This one will be a casing. It should be, I want to switch this out with colored cable. It's very important we do not connect to the black network here, which is the output bus. But all of these, it should say 5 devices online. 5 channels in use in the smart cable. Yes, it does. Perfect. And we are going to change the electrolyzer setup here as well. So in actual fact, we don't need this purple cable here either. P2P output, connect to ore processing frequency. So 3, how is this fundamentally different? Oh yeah, and this still does relate to the crops, just bear with me a second. Okay, so the way that we currently move fluids around is by using Applied Energistics Fluid P2P, but the issue is kind of in the name, right? This is point to point, this is P2P. The thing is though, the centrifuges and electrolyzers will give us multiple fluids, and that's going to get a little bit messy, especially when we're dealing with, when we already have, what is this, 5 stocking input buses? And something I didn't even consider actually is there's a minimum casings on all the multi-blocks. Yeah, you can see here it needs a minimum of 10 casings. So it means we can't fill the whole thing with just hatches or buses. But on top of that, we need a way to handle multiple different fluids, right? So I ended up crafting some more Lapotron crystals and put that through the forming press with diamond chipsets. Then we converted the fluid circuit into the fluid processor and converted those into 2 dual interfaces here. So these things I am super excited about, and we're going to use these all over the place here in the future. But at this very moment in time, we're not going to use them for their intended purpose. We are actually going to craft them into the output hatch ME bus. whatever it's called. Uh-oh. Yes, there we go, it's crafting, okay. And this is called the output hatch ME bus. Stores directly into ME. Surely that should say AE, right? I don't know. This should also be a quest. Maybe not. Maybe we've not unlocked the quest. So these things we are going to place on the centrifuge here for any... not that. For any fluids we might get out of the multi-block. And this will be on the main Applied Energistics network, the red network. And then we're going to do the same thing here on the electrolyzer. So output bus can go here. We might as well put it on this side. Again, on the red network. So as we've seen on the tooltip, this thing outputs directly into ME, but we do not have any fluid storage. At least not as far as Applied Energistics is concerned. Because even though it is true that we can insert via fluid P2P, this does not count as a valid storage location because we're not bound to the same frequency as, say, for example, propane here. We would have to add a separate P2P for each fluid we have to deal with out of the output of the centrifuge and electrolyzer. And the solution to this problem is fluid storage buses. I think all it costs us is a regular storage bus, and we put that through the assembly machine to convert it to the fluid variant, which I'm very surprised about. I thought it would be more expensive, but I guess interfaces on their own are already, well, storage buses on their own are already expensive. Yeah, that's 12 titanium per interface, plus the formation core. Yeah, it's definitely not cheap. This might also be a quest. Yes, this is a quest. So you guys know we use regular storage buses all over the place, including in the new setup here with the green cable. And storage buses allow you to access the inventory from Applied Energistics from the network it's connected to. Right, so when you have a storage bus connected to a drawer controller, for example, you can see all the items in the drawer. And this applies with anything. You can put a chest here, you can put I don't know, you can even put another network. Well, the same thing applies here for fluids. Having this means that this is a valid storage location for, in this case, oxygen. Because the tank is locked, it can only allow oxygen in here. Let's say for our example, biotite, which is the whole reason we set this up, right? Biotite will give us oxygen and fluorine. So whenever it runs the recipe here, it's going to put the oxygen and fluorine into the output hatch. And it's going to look for a valid storage location in AE. So this is on the red network, right? We are going to have to give it a valid storage location for oxygen, which is here. We're going to move these round to the backside of the tanks. So oxygen, and we'll have to deal with the channel situation in a second. So there's oxygen and then fluorine, which I think is in one of these ones. Do we even have a... Yes, right here. And you know what? Because of the channel situation, I'm going to move fluorine. That wasn't bound to anything, don't worry. We're going to move fluorine to over this side, and we can give this a fluid storage bus. And then what other fluids are we going to get here? So if we check the main terminal, this is not only just for biotite, by the way, which is why it's at ore processing. If we check a long list of the terminal here, we can see things like, for example, oh, I don't know, red garnet dust, which we can first centrifuge into pyrope, almandine, and spessartine. And pyrope I know can be electrolyzed into aluminium, magnesium, raw silicon, and oxygen. But wait a second, this is on the white network here. We are on a different subnet which stores the output of the ore processing system. And we are taking the inputs to this machine on the red network, right? Which is not the white network. Well done, 3. You're better with colour than you are with math, right? That was top commentary right there. However, the red network has access to the contents of the white network because we have this situation back here, which I don't think I've shown on video, but we done this during the live stream. This is just simply an interface and storage bus combination, item storage bus. And having a regular item storage bus on an interface of a subnet allows you to interface with any of the items belonging to that white network. So this storage bus is on extract only. That means it can extract any item it wants from the white terminal, from this network here, which is all the items on these drives and these drawers here. And we're doing this because we can get dusts in either system, right? I don't know how easy this is to follow, but I'm trying my best here. So yeah, back to the crops here, right? So we have black stone lily, which gives us black granite dust. Some of the ores will give us black granite as a byproduct, and all of this we want to send through a centrifuge for biotite. And then biotite we have to electrolyze, right? So basically we need all the networks to talk to each other, which is why we have that storage bus and interface combination there. And that allows us to access the storage of both networks to send to both of these machines. And we can do that via the stocking input bus here, right? So we can request black granite, and that's going to stock all of the black granite dust in our main system, in the main drives, and also on the white network. So if it has the minimum amount for the recipe, the machine will run. Let's take a look at some of the other dusts here, which we want to electrolyze and send into the stocking input buses. Hopefully you can see where this is going. Oh yeah, there's also this topaz dust, which we have a tiny amount of, but we do want to electrolyze this just for extra byproducts. This gives us hydrogen, which we've not accounted for yet, which means that we have to find hydrogen here. I believe it's this tank. I think we're out, yeah. We are completely out of hydrogen. This is going to be nice for our hydrogen supplies because we don't have any way of producing it yet. But this will also get a fluid storage bus. And then after looking through some more of the recipes, I think the only two I can find that we get from the centrifuge electrolyzer is chlorine, which is here. We'll add a fluid storage bus. And the recent addition to the system is helium here. I think, yeah, it's right next to chlorine. We also get helium out of the centrifuges. Hopefully that made sense. Let me plug some things in here and get this running, and then it may be easier to see this in action.
We come alive in the nighttime. It's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. Oh, we come alive. We come alive. Oh, we come alive. Tell me that you want me. I can see you want me by the look in your eyes. Tell me that you want me.
Alright, check this out. This is the coolest thing ever. We have little secret doors into our fluid storage area. And of course there's one on this side as well, disguised as corp. Alright, so it's been some time later. I did manage to finish off this fluid situation here. And also got the multi-blocks configured. I maybe should have increased their closing time. Or their opening time. So they're open a little longer. Anyways, that's not really important right now. As you can see by the lamps, I added the functionality I've been wanting to add in here for quite some time. Some of you guys actually suggested when we first built this storage room for fluids. So the top lantern here indicates that the tank is full. In this case, in refinery gas, we have 4,000 buckets and the top lamp turns on. If, for example, over here it's soldering alloy, I think this is. If it's empty, if it's on 0, I think I actually have the threshold at 1 bucket. Effectively, if the tank is empty, then it emits the bottom lamp. And we know we need to do something about this, in this case solder and alloy. We don't have any passive way of making solder and alloy right now. I've just been filling this tank manually for circuit production. And at a glance we can very easily tell which tanks are empty and which tanks are full. And because we don't have enough fluid storage, I haven't filtered all of the stocking input buses here on the centrifuge and electrolyzer, only for a couple of the dusts. I did make sure to test the fluid output, and it works exactly as we expect it to. For example, Cinnabar, this is one of the ones we want to centrifuge, and we can get mercury from this. I did miss mercury the first pass, but I did make sure to add it in a fluid tank upstairs. We can then add this to the stocking input bus. It's going to recognize 6,000 here. And it doesn't, look at that. Did you guys see that? That was all 6,300 all at once. And it's going to take 659 seconds in the centrifuge. That is awesome. I mean, a 600-second recipe is not awesome, but when it's doing when it's doing 6,300 Cinnabar at once, that is just glorious. And that is thanks to this batch mode. This is a brand new feature in this version of the pack, and it will parallelize a recipe. Okay, currently we have 23,558 sulfur. Let's see what that number's at in a couple hundred seconds. Oh yeah, and we should also expect to see some more mercury show up. So we have 188 buckets. We're viewing in a brand new fluid terminal here, by the way, which exists because we can see this is all the fluid storage we have on our network thanks to the fluid storage buses. And you'll also notice there is water in here. So in the middle of this pillar, I added an extra fluid storage bus here for water. It's not filtered because I couldn't get the filler to work. For some reason, when you pull from NEI and you do this, it doesn't let water in. So I had to leave this unfiltered and change the trash can to a super tank and then lock water here. And we're just voiding excess. If you guys know how to filter in the storage bus, then let me know. 10 seconds left on the centrifuge. In theory, it should work, right? We should have all the sulfur. 26,000. And the mercury is now 3.2 million. That's basically a full super tank now. Alright, so now in theory, we should have fully automated farms. There is still the elephant in the room, and that is item transfer. In fact, you know what? We're gonna gamble again. We're gonna gamble. I made some graphene and some more fortune books. So I realized we have 22 EV loot bags here, which we can of course convert in the quest book. And we have exactly 8 motors to enchant this. So we get 8 chances. Oh, look at that, 8 fortune books. Exactly. Is our luck about to run out, or is our luck just beginning? Let's find out. You guys might have seen in that time lapse that I opened some AE bags, and look what we got. It actually gave us a full quantum ring. I mean, just one. You need 2 of these things to wirelessly send your AE system across dimensions. But the reason we're not using a quantum ring is because it takes a lot of energy to run passively, and we just can't really support that right now. Okay, anyways, 8 IV bags. I see ender tanks. I see ender tanks. We didn't get it. We got more ender tanks, but not ender chests. Oh, I wonder if they removed it. Oh man, that's still decent though. That's still quite decent. Well, the inferior alternative is to make the magic mirror, but honestly, I really don't want to craft this thing. And we would swap it out immediately with an ender tank, so I think we should just work towards crafting ender tanks. But we're not going to go the simple way. Oh no, we're going to go the most roundabout way possible. While also investing in infrastructure along the way. So think of the crops as done, we just need a way to transfer all the items. For the moment, we are going to do some more chemistry. So back when we first constructed the chemistry area, we didn't have our large gas turbines up and running. We ended up using single block gas turbines to power all the machines in the room. So the first job was to replace all of those single blocks and extend our main power spine and plug all of the chemistry machinery into direct power. It involved a lot of transformers and making sure everything was the correct voltage. However, despite the initial upfront cost, it is more efficient to do it this way, since the multi-block gas turbines are more efficient than the single blocks. So with our new power spine extended to the chemistry room, I then began to lay out a plan for the next set of chemical reactors, and then spent a few hours crafting all of the machinery we would need. Alright, so I mentioned at the beginning of the episode we want to start to integrate some of the older systems that we've built before we unlocked Applied Energistics in with the new fluid and item movement capability of our AE system. These should sound familiar to you guys. This episode is going to be as follows. First we have polyethylene, vinyl chloride and polyvinyl chloride, the 2 plastics. Then we'll do polydimethylsiloxane dust in order to make silicone rubber. And then finally hydrofluoric acid, tetrafluoroethylene and polytetrafluoroethylene. So as you've seen with the previous setups, mainly this epoxide setup, I like to first think about how many inputs and outputs we need for each system. And this time I've done it in game with signs. It looks a bit of a mess right now, but don't worry, this is... it's not as complex as it might look. Basically, I just line it up, right? So we've got polyethylene first. This is 2 fluid inputs, circuit 1, and 2 fluid outputs. Then we have vinyl chloride, which is 2 fluid inputs, circuit 1, 2 fluid outputs. And then polyvinyl chloride is 2 fluid inputs, circuit 1 and 1 fluid output. For symmetry reasons, I've also tried to group it the same way we have it here, so 3 wall shared LCRs next to 2 wall shared LCRs, next to 2 wall shared LCRs, and we're also being aware of the chunk boundary right here, which obviously exists on this side as well. The other big thing to consider at this point is power. So I believe the hydrofluoric acid recipe needs to be HV minimum. So we're going to group all of tetrafluoroethylene, polytetrafluoroethylene as HV. So these 3 will get HV energy hatches. I think one of the polydimethylsiloxane dust, yeah, I think it's this one, has to be at least MV. So we'll just do all of silicone rubber at MV. And then the last 3, polyethylene, vinyl chloride, and PVC, has to be at least LV. So we're just going to run this at LV just to make it a bit cheaper at this point in the game. And remember, these are all fully passive processes, so we don't need to worry too much about the speed. Yeah, I have a chest full of crafted stuff. I hope this is going to be enough. I think we need more casings than this though. I didn't make enough of this. But yeah, it's going to be 9 LCRs in total. Let's put all this together. Are you guys ready for this? This is going to be so much fun. I'm looking forward to this a lot. This is my favorite thing to do in this game. If you don't remember exactly what all these chemicals do, don't worry, we'll go over all of that shortly. But right now we have some machines to build. So the first thing I started with was running power to all of the energy hatches we placed. It was quite simple now that the main power spine has been extended. The way I set it up was to split the green LUV cable into 2 IV connections, one for each side of the room, and then high amp transform down to EV. From there we transform once down to HV to power PTFE, so that is 3 amps. The last one is sent into another transformer down to MV for silicone rubber, and then we transform once more down to LV for polyethylene and PVC. Once we had power run, we placed all of the hatches and buses in optimal positions and brought over AE channels via the new P2P connection to the main controller. Alright, so we got all the machines prepped here with all the input buses and output buses, and hatches, etc. And I take back what I said about this being not as complicated as it looks. I think it actually might be, because yeah, there's a mix between items and fluids that we require. Like for example, silicone rubber needs sulfur here. Wait. Yeah, sulfur here and raw silicon here. Ideally these would also be stocking input buses, but we're out of platinum. So we're going to have to go with the cheaper method here, which is the interface plus conveyor module. Yeah, we are getting there. I still have to craft the extra casings here as well. Yeah, it's just barely enough to form the first 3 LCRs. We're going to have to craft a lot more. Yep, we gotta keep on Gregging. Keep on Gregging here. You know what? I've just had another realization. We are not going to have enough fluid storage here. Not only do we not have enough tank capacity, which is what I meant earlier since I didn't filter the rest of the machines, the centrifuge, and we can't really craft any more tanks because we're kind of out of circuits. Yeah, fixing circuits is something we'll have to tackle pretty soon here, but we're kind of doing that already indirectly. But yeah, not only do we not have enough tank capacity, we also don't have enough spaces for more tanks. We have this one here, and I think the rest of these already have an assigned fluid. This one might not. Oh no, this is mercury, that's right. And what we're about to make automatically now is polytetrafluoroethylene, which is for now being stored right here, but this will obviously want to be moved into main fluid storage. So that's one tank, plus another one for polyethylene and PVC, here and here. And then for one of these, we also get a diluted hydrochloric acid byproduct. I think it might be in silicone rubber production. Here, diluted hydrochloric acid. We are going to have to distill that somehow. Okay, you know what? One problem at a time. What we're going to do is ignore the fact that we don't have enough fluid storage, and we'll just store the fluids on site. And I will expand this room between episodes. We have to stay focused here. We have to get these machines operational. And done. 8 more LCRs to add to our collection. I mean, besides the fact that we don't have a way to process diluted hydrochloric acid, and we don't have a way to store a lot of these fluids yet, so we're just letting it build up in the output hatch. But of course we have our fluid detector cover. Remember, the multi-blocks do void the recipe if there's nowhere for it to be placed. So yeah, fluid detector cover on everything set to 1 bucket, inverted, and then we're doing our golden rule, redstone on, machine on. This, once we had everything crafted, it was very easy to set up because, well, we have infrastructure, right? Besides crafting infrastructure, but that is the next project. But yeah, all we had to do was like filter the P2Ps to their frequencies that we need. Like for example, on polyethylene here, the first one, all we need to do is filter in ethylene and oxygen. Oxygen we're swimming in. And then ethylene we're also swimming in because of this distillation tower here. I think it's this one. I'd be amazed if it was actually this one. I don't think it is. It's this one. This is ethylene. Aha, and the main fluid storage tank is almost full. I think it was full until it filled the LCRs down there. Now everything is starting to come together. Vinyl chloride is also very easy. That's just chlorine plus ethylene. So again, we filter ethylene plus chlorine, gives us vinyl chloride, and then we mix that with more oxygen and we get polyvinyl chloride. And for 2 of these processes, we just pass the output here, vinyl chloride. We make sure we lock the output hatch as well. We pass the output straight into the input of this LCR, so we don't have to go via Applied Energistics or send a way to send it right back here. We're doing the same thing here for polytetrafluoroethylene. For hydrofluoric acid, we send the output directly into the input of tetrafluoroethylene. But this hydrofluoric acid, I know we need in the NAC line later on. Let's see if we can find it here. It's used in a few places. I've not seen this before. Boron trifluoride? I have no idea what that is. Oh, it's used in the samarium line as well. Aha, yeah, so we need this a few places. Anyways, that is besides the point. If we need it elsewhere, I mean, we can also just easily stick a fluid P2P underneath and then send it over to fluid storage and then send it back here to the input hatch. And that way it's available to us on our AE network, right? But that's not something we're going to worry about right now. The last one we have to filter here is polytetrafluoroethylene, which is tetrafluoroethylene plus oxygen. So it'll be exactly the same as the rest of them. We just have to find oxygen and bind the input. Bind oxygen, it should appear here. Yes, it does. Then we put the fluid detector cover, set to 1 bucket, machine controller, redstone on, machine on, safe mode in case we run out of power, and we're making polytetrafluoroethylene. Perfect. Let's lock the hatch here. Yeah, and that is pretty much us done. I know what some of you guys are thinking right now. In fact, I can see your comment already being written. Some of you might have already written a comment, in fact. 3, why on earth are you prioritizing the stuff that you've already got automated and not like doing some new stuff? The bottlenecks, fixing the bottlenecks. And that is a very good point. You could make the argument that this is not the most beneficial way to spend resources at the moment, especially given the fact that we already have PVC. We have quite a big backlog of polyethylene here, which we're going to grab. Polytetrafluoroethylene, I don't think is that big. 293 buckets, yeah. Nothing amazing. But now that we have these set up, and because of the fact that we have Applied Energistics, we can very, very easily send these to where they need to be, which is going to be the next project. Polyethylene, it's this one. Yeah, like I said, we're going to be going in the most roundabout way possible. And really, really investing in infrastructure. And the next piece of vital infrastructure we're going to be tackling next episode is this. Auto crafting. It is unacceptable at this point in the game that we are still manually crafting pretty much everything except for the final step in circuit production, which has saved me quite a few hours actually, not having to craft the final step of circuits. Lots of the auto crafting takes fluids though, which is the reason we invested so heavily in the chemistry area here, because a lot of it takes polyethylene, a lot of it takes polyvinyl chloride to craft the items, and silicone rubber, this was a really big one we were missing. And in fact, one of the inputs to silicone rubber is raw silicon, which I believe we are now out of. It belongs in this interface here. Yeah, we're now out of raw silicon. There's 100 left in the input bus. One of the best sources of raw silicon though, we can get from this bad boy right here. So everything is coming, actually it might be the electrolyzer. It's one of these machines. You can get a lot of raw silicon from electrolyzing a lot of stuff. So everything is coming together here in the end. We just need that inner chest. We need that inner chest. Oh yeah, and then of course another interconnected thing is fluorine, which we get from the biotite from the crops. Well, that is used in hydrofluoric acid, which is this LCR right here. So yet another interconnected system, which relies on something else in the base. But yeah, that is going to wrap up today's episode of New Horizons. This was quite the grind for me. It was so much, I love this part of the game, it's awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next episode of New Horizons.